I stared at my phone screen, scrolling through the Instagram photos my cousin had posted just 30 minutes earlier. There was Grandpa William, beaming in his navy blue suit, surrounded by what looked like 40 family members at Romano's Italian Bistro. The same restaurant where our family had celebrated every major milestone for the past 15 years. The same restaurant where I should have been sitting right now helping Grandpa blow out 90 candles. Instead, I was in my downtown office at 7 p.m. on a Saturday, working on quarterly reports for my investment portfolio while my entire extended family celebrated without me. The caption on my cousin Jennifer's photo made my stomach turn. 3 generations celebrating Grandpa's 90th. All the family together. Red heart. All the family except me apparently. I set my phone down and walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. From the 40th floor of the Meridian Tower, I could see Romano's Italian Bistro, just a small glowing rectangle among the thousands of lights below. My family was down there right now, probably telling stories about Grandpa's war service, laughing at his terrible jokes, passing around photos of great-grandchildren he'd never get to meet if he had to rely on me to provide them. The exclusion wasn't exactly a surprise. It had been building for months, ever since the last family gathering at Easter when my Uncle Richard had made his feelings clear. "Sarah's too busy for family these days," he'd announced to the entire dinner table. "Too important with her little internet business and her fancy downtown apartment. Doesn't have time for the people who raised her." My little internet business was actually a diversified investment firm that I'd built from scratch over the past 8 years. What had started as day trading with $5,000 from my college graduation money had evolved into Apex Financial Solutions, a company that now managed over $300 million in assets for high-net-worth clients. But to my family, I was still just Sarah who played with computers and lived alone in the city instead of settling down in suburbia like a proper 34-year-old woman should. I picked up my phone again and opened the contact information for Romano's Italian Bistro. I'd eaten there dozens of times over the years, christenings, graduations, anniversaries, holiday celebrations. I knew the owner, Giuseppe Romano, well enough to recognize him when he greeted tables, but we'd never had a real conversation. That was about to change. The phone rang 3 times before a harried voice answered. "Romano's, this is Tony. I need to speak with Giuseppe Romano immediately. It's urgent. He's kind of busy right now, we've got a big party going on. Can I take a message? Tell him Sarah Chin is on the phone and I want to make him an offer he can't refuse." I could hear the doubt in Tony's voice, but something about my tone must have convinced him to take me seriously. "Hold on." While I waited, I pulled up the restaurant's financial information on my computer. Romano's had been struggling since the pandemic like most restaurants. Property taxes in that area had skyrocketed, labor costs were through the roof and competition from chain restaurants was fierce. According to my research, Giuseppe had been trying to sell for 6 months without finding a buyer willing to meet his asking price. "This is Giuseppe," came a tired voice with a slight Italian accent. "Tony says you want to make me an offer? Mr. Romano, I want to buy your restaurant. Tonight. Cash offer, no financing contingencies, no inspection period. I can have the money transferred within an hour." There was a long pause. "Lady, I don't know who you are, but this isn't how business works. You can't just call up and buy a restaurant over the phone. I'm Sarah Chin from Apex Financial Solutions. I've been researching restaurant acquisitions in the downtown district for my investment portfolio. Your establishment has excellent reviews, a prime location and a loyal customer base. I'm prepared to offer you $2.7 million. Another pause, longer this time. I could hear the noise of the restaurant in the background, clinking dishes, laughter, the sound of my family celebrating without me. $2.7 million? Giuseppe's voice had changed, become more focused. My asking price is 2.5. I know. I'm offering above asking because I want to close tonight. I have a family situation that requires immediate resolution. What kind of family situation involves buying a restaurant? I looked down at the lights below, imagining my family's faces when they realized what was about to happen. The kind where you need to make a point about respect and inclusion, Mr. Romano. Giuseppe was quiet for a moment, then chuckled. "You know what? I like your style. But I can't just sell you a restaurant over the phone, even for cash. There are contracts, inspections, liquor licenses. I'll handle all the legal requirements through my attorneys. What I need from you right now is a handshake agreement and permission to make an announcement to your current customers. What kind of announcement? I smiled, finally feeling like I had some control over this situation. The kind that's going to make my family very uncomfortable. 20 minutes later, I was walking through the front door of Romano's Italian Bistro, my attorney David Kim beside me with a briefcase full of preliminary purchase agreements. The restaurant was packed, warm lights spilling from table lamps and candles creating the cozy atmosphere that had made it a family favorite for so many years. I spotted my family immediately. They'd pushed together 4 large tables in the back corner, creating space for what looked like 40 people spanning 4 generations. Grandpa sat at the head of the combined tables, wearing the navy suit I'd bought him for his 85th birthday, his face animated as he told what was probably his famous story about accidentally proposing to Grandma at a baseball game. Uncle Richard was holding court at the other end of the table, gesturing dramatically as he told some business story to my younger cousins. Aunt Linda was taking photos of everything, documenting the family gathering for posterity. My parents sat near Grandpa, Mom helping him with his dinner while Dad laughed at whatever joke had just been told. None of them noticed me enter. Giuseppe met me near the hostess stand, wiping his hands on his apron. He was a stocky man in his 60s with kind eyes and the calloused hands of someone who'd worked in restaurants his entire life. Miss Chin, I have to ask, are you sure about this? Buying a restaurant is a big decision, and doing it in the middle of a family party seems dramatic? I finished. Mr. Romano, my family excluded me from my grandfather's 90th birthday party. They posted photos on social media showing how happy they all are without me there. Sometimes dramatic gestures are the only way to get people's attention. He studied my face for a moment, then glanced over at my family's tables. Those are your people over there? Unfortunately, yes. Giuseppe shook his head sadly. Family is everything, Miss Chin. Whatever this fight is about, maybe there's a better way to solve it. I've tried the better ways, Mr. Romano. I've tried being patient, being understanding, being available whenever they needed me. I've tried proving my worth through success, through generosity, through loyalty. None of it mattered. Tonight I try something different. David opened his briefcase and pulled out the contracts we'd prepared during the drive over. Mr. Romano, these are the preliminary purchase agreements. Obviously, we'll need several days to complete all the due diligence and legal requirements, but this establishes Ms. Chen's serious intent to purchase and your agreement to sell at the stated price. Giuseppe looked over the documents, his expression growing more serious as he realized this wasn't some elaborate prank or emotional outburst. You really have $2.7 million? I pulled out my phone and showed him my banking app, the same way I'd shown my sister my investment portfolio at Christmas dinner 2 years ago. I can have it wired to your account within the hour. His eyes widened as he saw the numbers on my screen. Madonna mia. You're serious. Completely serious. Mr. Romano, I know this seems impulsive, but I've been looking for restaurant investment opportunities for months. Your establishment fits perfectly into my portfolio strategy. The family situation just provides convenient timing. Giuseppe looked over at my family again, then back at me. Slowly he extended his hand. Miss Chin, you have yourself a restaurant. We shook hands and David immediately began preparing the paperwork for signatures. I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and nervousness as I realized what I'd just done. In the span of 30 minutes, I'd gone from scrolling through painful social media photos to becoming the owner of my family's favorite restaurant. There's one more thing, Mr. Romano, I said quietly. I'd like to make an announcement to the customers about the ownership change. Nothing dramatic, just a brief statement about the restaurant's future under new management. He nodded slowly. It's your restaurant now, Ms. Chin. You can do whatever you want. I walked to the center of the dining room and gently tapped a wine glass with a knife, the sound cutting through the warm chatter of dinner conversations. Gradually, the restaurant fell silent as customers turned to see what was happening. Good evening, everyone, I said, my voice carrying clearly through the intimate space. I'm Sarah Chin, and I'm pleased to announce that as of tonight, I am the new owner of Romano's Italian Bistro. A murmur of surprise rippled through the restaurant. I could see my family's table stirring, heads turning in my direction as they recognized my voice. Mr. Romano has built something beautiful here, I continued. And I'm committed to preserving the warm, family-friendly atmosphere that has made this restaurant a cornerstone of our community for so many years. Uncle Richard was staring at me now, his mouth hanging open in shock. Aunt Linda had dropped her camera. My parents looked confused, as if they couldn't quite process what they were seeing and hearing. However, I continued, my voice taking on a slightly sharper edge, as the new owner, I do need to address some immediate operational changes. The restaurant was completely silent now, everyone hanging on my words. Effective immediately, Romano's Italian Bistro operates on a strict policy of inclusion and respect. We welcome families who understand that love means including everyone, not just the people who are convenient or who live up to arbitrary expectations. I looked directly at my family's table as I spoke the next words. Unfortunately, we cannot continue to serve customers who demonstrate patterns of exclusion, disrespect, or who treat family members as disposable. Therefore, I'm going to have to ask the party at tables 12 through 15 to settle their bill and leave the premises. The silence that followed was deafening. My family sat frozen as if they couldn't quite believe what they were hearing. Uncle Richard was the first to find his voice. "Sarah, what the hell do you think you're doing?" "I'm exercising my rights as a business owner, Uncle Richard. The same way you exercised your right to exclude me from Grandpa's birthday party." Grandpa was struggling to stand up, confusion clear on his face. "Sarah? Sweetheart, what are you talking about? What are you doing here?" The pain in his voice almost broke my resolve. This wasn't his fault. Grandpa had always been kind to me, had always been proud of my achievements. But he was 90 years old and relied on other family members to organize gatherings and send invitations. "I'm here because it's your 90th birthday, Grandpa," I said gently. "I'm here because I love you and I wanted to celebrate with you. I'm here because family should include everyone, not just the people who live in the suburbs and have children." Mom finally found her voice. "Sarah, honey, there must be some misunderstanding. We sent you an invitation." "No, Mom, you didn't. I checked my mail, my email, my voicemail. I found out about tonight's party the same way the rest of the internet did, through Jennifer's Instagram post." Jennifer, my 26-year-old cousin, turned red and slumped down in her chair. "But more importantly," I continued, "this isn't about one missed invitation. This is about 3 years of being treated like an outsider in my own family. This is about Uncle Richard telling everyone I'm too good for family gatherings. This is about being excluded from weddings, graduations, and holiday celebrations because my lifestyle doesn't match your expectations." Uncle Richard stood up, his face flushed with anger. "Your lifestyle? You mean living alone in the city, focusing on money instead of family, acting like you're better than the rest of us? I mean building a successful business that employs 47 people and manages investments for families throughout this state," I shot back. "I mean creating financial security for myself instead of waiting for someone else to take care of me. I mean living my life on my own terms instead of conforming to someone else's narrow definition of success." Aunt Linda was crying now, dabbing at her eyes with her napkin. "Sarah, we're family. We can work this out. You don't need to buy restaurants and make scenes. I bought this restaurant because it's a good investment, Aunt Linda. The scene is just a bonus." Giuseppe stepped forward, clearly uncomfortable with the family drama unfolding in his dining room. "Perhaps we should all take a moment to calm down." "There's nothing to calm down about," Uncle Richard interrupted. "Sarah, you can't just kick family out of a restaurant. This is insane." "I can absolutely ask disruptive customers to leave my establishment," I replied calmly. "And right now you're being disruptive." David appeared at my elbow with a folder of documents. "Ms. Chin, the preliminary paperwork is complete. Mr. Romano has signed, and we just need your signature to make the ownership transfer official." I signed the documents while my family watched in stunned silence, the pen scratching loudly in the quiet restaurant. When I finished, David handed me a set of keys. "Congratulations, Ms. Chin. You're officially the owner of Romano's Italian Bistro." I looked around the restaurant, at the other customers who were pretending not to stare, at Giuseppe who looked like he still couldn't believe what had just happened, at my family who sat in shocked silence at their pushed-together tables. "Now then," I said, addressing my family directly, "I believe I asked you to settle your bill and leave." Grandpa was shaking his head slowly, his eyes bright with what might have been tears. "Sarah, sweetheart, please don't do this. It's my birthday. These are my children and grandchildren. This is my family. The pain in his voice cut right through my anger, leaving me feeling hollow and ashamed. This wasn't what I'd wanted. I'd wanted to make a point about inclusion and respect, but instead I was ruining his birthday celebration. Grandpa, I said softly, walking over to his chair, you're absolutely right. This is your family and it's your birthday. I'm sorry for disrupting your celebration. I knelt down beside his chair, taking his weathered hands in mine. What if we made a deal? What if everyone who wants to stay and celebrate with you can stay, but we all agree to some new rules about how we treat each other? His eyes brightened slightly. What kind of rules, sweetheart? I stood up and addressed the table but kept my voice gentle. The rules are simple. We treat each other with respect. We include everyone in family gatherings. We celebrate each other's successes instead of tearing them down. And we remember that family means showing up for each other, even when it's inconvenient. Uncle Richard was still standing, his arms crossed defiantly. And if we don't agree to your rules? Then you're free to leave and celebrate somewhere else, I said. But Grandpa stays here because it's his birthday and he deserves to spend it surrounded by people who love him. Mom stood up slowly, her eyes red with tears. Sarah, I owe you an apology. I thought we had sent you an invitation. I thought Jennifer had handled it. I was supposed to text her, Jennifer said miserably. But I thought maybe she wouldn't want to come anyway, since she never seems to enjoy family stuff anymore. I don't enjoy family stuff because I'm constantly being judged and criticized, I said. But I love Grandpa and I love most of you even when you drive me crazy. Dad finally spoke up. Sarah, what you've done tonight, buying this restaurant, making this dramatic gesture, it's going to be a family story for generations. Good or bad? I asked. He smiled for the first time that evening. That depends on how we handle the next few minutes. Giuseppe stepped forward again. Miss Chin, if I may suggest something? Perhaps your family could continue their celebration as planned, and we could discuss the operational transition tomorrow? I think your grandfather would appreciate some normalcy on his birthday. I looked around the table at my family members, trying to gauge their reactions. Most of them looked shocked and slightly afraid, as if they were still processing what had just happened. But a few were beginning to show signs of curiosity, even amusement. My cousin Mark, Uncle Richard's youngest son, started laughing. Aunt Sarah, you just bought an entire restaurant to crash Grandpa's birthday party. That's either completely insane or absolutely brilliant. Probably both, I admitted. Uncle Richard sat back down heavily, shaking his head. I still think you're out of your mind. But I have to admit I'm impressed. How did you even have $2.7 million available on a Saturday night? I have good accountants and a diversified investment portfolio, I said. Also, I live below my means instead of spending everything I earn on status symbols. The barb hit its target, but Uncle Richard just nodded ruefully. Point taken. Grandpa was looking up at me with something that might have been pride. Sarah, sweetheart, sit down and tell me about this business of yours. Giuseppe, bring my granddaughter a chair and a plate of your best pasta. As I settled in next to Grandpa, Giuseppe bustling around to set a place for me, I realized that my dramatic gesture had accomplished something I hadn't expected. For the first time in years, my family was genuinely curious about my life, asking real questions instead of making assumptions. Over the next hour, as we shared Grandpa's birthday cake and Giuseppe brought out champagne to celebrate the restaurant's change of ownership, I found myself explaining my business in detail. Not defensively the way I usually did at family gatherings, but with enthusiasm and pride. So you manage money for other people? My cousin Jennifer asked. Like they just give you their savings and trust you to invest it? It's a little more complicated than that, I said. But essentially yes. I help families plan for retirement, save for their children's education, build wealth for the future. It's not that different from what Grandpa did when he started his construction company. I just work with different tools. Grandpa squeezed my hand. Your grandmother would be so proud, sweetheart. She always said you had a head for numbers. As the evening wound down and family members began to leave, Uncle Richard approached me with something that looked like an apology in his eyes. Sarah, I owe you an acknowledgement, he said quietly. I've been treating you badly and it wasn't fair. I was threatened by your success, I think. Worried that you were judging the rest of us for choosing more traditional paths. I wasn't judging, Uncle Richard. I was just trying to find my own way. I know that now. And what you've built, this business, this success, it's impressive. I'm sorry I couldn't see that before. As the restaurant emptied and Giuseppe began closing procedures, I found myself alone with Grandpa while the rest of the family gathered their coats and purses. Did I ruin your birthday? I asked quietly. He chuckled, his eyes twinkling with mischief. Sweetheart, you made it the most memorable 90th birthday party in family history. 50 years from now, people will still be telling the story about the night Sarah bought Romano's to crash my birthday party. Are you okay with me owning the restaurant? I know it's been your family's special place for a long time. Sarah, family isn't about places, it's about people. As long as you keep making good pasta and treating customers like family, I think Giuseppe's legacy will be in good hands. As I drove home that night, the keys to Romano's Italian bistro in my purse and a signed contract making me the owner of my family's favorite restaurant, I reflected on what I'd accomplished. I'd made my point about inclusion and respect, but more importantly, I'd opened a door to better relationships with my family. The next morning, my phone rang with calls from family members who wanted to apologize, to understand my business better, to plan future gatherings that included everyone. Uncle Richard called to ask for investment advice. Aunt Linda called to see if I needed help managing the restaurant. Jennifer called to ask if she could work part-time as a hostess while finishing her marketing degree. But the best call came from Grandpa. Sarah, sweetheart, I was thinking about what you said last night about family meaning showing up for each other. I want you to know that you've been showing up for me for years, even when the rest of them couldn't see it. The birthday cards, the visits, the way you remember stories I tell you, that's what family really means. Thanks, Grandpa. That means everything to me. Now about this restaurant of yours. Giuseppe tells me you're planning to keep all the recipes the same but modernize the business operations. That sounds smart. But I have one request. Anything. Keep the family table in the back corner. And make sure there's always room for everyone even when they don't deserve it. I smiled, looking out my office window toward the small glowing rectangle that was now my restaurant. I promise, Grandpa. There will always be room for family. Sometimes the most expensive purchases aren't about acquiring assets. They're about acquiring respect, understanding, and the opportunity to rebuild relationships on better terms. Romano's Italian Bistro cost me $2.7 million, but it bought me something priceless. A seat at my own family's table.